My name is Pamela Ruth, and I would never have imagined myself sharing this tale. Raised in a family of substantial wealth, I was the sole child of Ruth and Madison Ruth. My father, a self-made businessman, had forged his empire from nothing. He was a stern yet affectionate man who always encouraged me to strive for excellence. In contrast, my mother was a paragon of grace and elegance, effortlessly navigating the upper echelons of society. Our home was a vast mansion on the city's outskirts, providing me every conceivable luxury, from the finest education and designer clothes to vacations in exotic locales. Despite these material comforts, a void lingered within me. Then, during my last year of college, I met Terry Roy. Meeting him struck me like lightning. He was charismatic and attractive, and seemed to understand me in a way no one else had. We began dating, and for the first time, I felt genuinely vibrant and alive. However, this didn't sit well with my parents. One evening, over dinner, my mother delicately suggested that Terry might be more attracted to our family's wealth than to me. My father, with a stern expression, dismissed Terry as a man without prospects or ambition, unable to provide the lifestyle I was accustomed to. But I countered fiercely, asserting that love was what truly mattered. The situation escalated when Terry proposed in a simple, heartfelt manner in the very park where we'd had our first date. When I informed my parents of my decision to marry him, my father issued an ultimatum. Choosing Terry would mean being disowned. Tears in my eyes, I pleaded for their happiness for me. But my father remained unyielding, and my mother stood by him, her face etched with disappointment. That night, with a heavy but determined heart, I left my parents' home. I moved into Terry's modest apartment, a stark contrast to my previous life of luxury. The wedding preparations were hectic and filled with anticipation, yet I held out hope that my parents would change their minds. As the wedding day drew near without a sign from them, the realization hit hard. However, as I walked down the aisle, seeing Terry's gaze filled with love, all my doubts and the sadness of my parents' absence dissipated. In that moment, only the love we shared mattered. After the wedding, we moved into a luxurious apartment downtown, an inheritance from my beloved grandfather. It was a beautiful space with high ceilings and a panoramic city view, far removed from Terry's previous living situation. I poured my heart into making it our home, decorating it with care as we started our new life together. Despite the initial challenges and the estrangement from my parents, choosing to follow my heart with Terry felt like the truest path I could have taken. As Terry and I navigated the early days of our marriage, he dedicated himself to his career at a local marketing agency, often returning home late, but always greeting me with a smile and a loving kiss. Meanwhile, I focused on making our new apartment a cozy home and spent my spare time volunteering at a local animal shelter. About a year and a half into our marriage, everything took a dramatic turn. I discovered I was pregnant. Holding the positive test, my emotions swung wildly between joy and apprehension. When I shared the news with Terry, his delight was unmistakable. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he lifted me in a celebratory twirl, exclaiming, "We're going to be parents, Pamela. This is amazing." The arrival of our son Zachary was a profound moment, filled with overwhelming love and joy. He was perfect, from his tiny fingers to the tufts of dark hair that mirrored his father's. In a burst of emotion, I sent a photo of Zachary to my parents, hoping it might bridge the distance between us. However, their silence was deafening. Terry, noticing my disappointment, reassured me, "They'll come around." How could they resist this little guy? I tried to keep my spirits focused on our little family. As the months passed and Zachary grew, I felt a strong desire to return to work. I managed to find a part-time position as a manager at a local boutique, which seemed like the perfect balance. My days became a whirlwind of feeding Zachary, managing work, running the household, and collapsing into bed at night, ready to repeat it all the next day. As Zachary approached his first birthday, I noticed a change in Terry. He became distant, often returning home later than usual and constantly absorbed in his phone. Concerned, I approached him one evening. "Is everything okay at work?" I asked. His reply was brief and distracted. Yeah, just busy with a big project. But his avoidance of eye contact and the unsettled feeling in my gut told me something was amiss. Our life seemed complete on the surface, with a beautiful son, a lovely home, and good jobs. But the unease grew. One evening, as I was tucking Zachary into bed, Terry's tone became serious, unlike his usual self. "Pamela, we need to talk," he said, cornering me in the nursery. He suggested I quit my job, claiming the house was a mess and Zachary needed more attention. I was stunned. Quitting my job was the last thing I wanted. I loved my work and felt we were managing fine. Terry insisted, "I'm the man of this house, and I'm telling you it's time to quit." We argued well into the night, but eventually I relented, convincing myself it was for our family's best. With a heavy heart, I resigned the next day. I threw myself into my new full-time role at home, cleaning, cooking, and playing with Zachary, trying to find fulfillment in the rhythm of daily life. But as days turned into weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in our relationship, a gap that was slowly widening. As time passed, I increasingly missed the structure and fulfillment my job had offered. Terry's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He would come home later each night, sometimes reeking of alcohol. I also noticed unusual withdrawals from our bank account that alarmed me. One evening, while folding laundry, I decided to confront him. "Terry, where is all our money going? We're barely making ends meet," I asked, trying to keep my tone even. His reaction was explosive. "Maybe if you knew how to budget properly, we wouldn't have this problem." I was taken aback by his outburst. It was as if he had become a stranger. From there, things only deteriorated. Terry started to criticize everything I did. The house was never clean enough, the meals I cooked weren't satisfying, and according to him, I wasn't giving enough attention to Zachary. The situation reached a breaking point when Zachary fell ill with a severe flu, feverish, and inconsolable for days. Exhausted after 2 sleepless nights, I pleaded with Terry, "Please, can you take a day off work to help with Zachary? I'm exhausted." His response was cold and dismissive. "Take a day off? Are you kidding? Some of us actually have to work for a living, Pamela." The following day, he came home with a suitcase. "I'm going to a hotel for a few days. I need to rest after work, not listen to a screaming kid," he declared. I stood in disbelief as he walked out the door, leaving me alone to manage everything. As the door slammed shut, I collapsed to the floor with Zachary in my arms, overwhelmed by the turn our lives had taken. The man who once adored me seemed to have vanished. At that moment, I desperately missed my parents. I longed to call them, to hear my mother's calming voice and feel my father's protective embrace, but pride and a sense of shame held me back. How could I admit that they might have been right about Terry all along? As I rocked Zachary, soothing his cries and my tears, my father's words echoed in my mind. "He's not the man you think he is, Pamela." The days that followed Terry's departure were a blur of sleepless nights and exhausting days. Thankfully, Zachary's fever eventually subsided. As he recovered, I had more time to think, perhaps too much time. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something fundamentally wrong with my marriage. When Terry returned from the hotel a week later, he was a changed man, distant, irritable, and seemingly resentful towards both Zachary and me. One evening, he arrived home earlier than usual with a serious look on his face and clutching some papers. "Pamela, we need to talk about insurance," he announced, sitting at the kitchen table. He explained that he had taken out a life insurance policy for $3 million on himself and suggested I do the same. "It's for Zachary's future, in case anything happens to either of us. Don't you want to make sure he's taken care of?" he reasoned. While his words made sense, the whole scenario felt unsettling. $3 million, Terry? That seems excessive, especially since I don't work outside the home anymore, I responded cautiously. His eyes hardened as he replied, "It's for Zachary's future." Despite my reservations, I could only nod slowly, agreeing to consider it if he truly believed it was the best course of action. However, deep inside, I remained troubled by the whole situation, feeling that something just wasn't right. Over the next few days, I watched Terry grow increasingly peculiar. He was glued to his phone, sending texts at odd hours, and would abruptly leave the room to answer calls, often locking himself away in our home office. One morning, after he had left for work, I reached a breaking point. The uncertainty gnawing at me was unbearable. I needed clarity. Trembling, I searched online for help and found the number for CC Top Private Investigations. A gruff voice greeted me. CC Top Private Investigations, how can I help you? Taking a deep breath, I stammered, I need someone to follow my husband. I think he might be cheating. The investigator seemed to understand my hesitation. I see, ma'am. Why don't you come into our office, and we can discuss the details? That afternoon, with Zachary napping peacefully, I met with an investigator named Emma, a straightforward, attentive woman. I poured out my concerns, Terry's secretive late-night phone calls, and his drastic behavior change. Emma took meticulous notes and reassured me, "We'll get to the bottom of this, Mrs. Roy. I'll have my best person on it." Leaving her office, I felt a mix of relief and dread. Part of me clung to hope that this was all a misunderstanding, but deep down, I feared that the truth would alter my life irrevocably. 2 weeks later, Emma called with the investigation results, her voice somber. "Mrs. Roy, we have the report ready. You might want to sit down for this." My heart thudded as I sank into a chair, bracing myself. "I'm ready. Tell me everything." As Emma detailed the findings, my world shattered. Terry had been unfaithful. He had a mistress. The evidence was overwhelming. Photographs, text messages, hotel receipts. It was all irrefutably laid out before me. The next morning, after Terry left for work, I sprang into action. With shaking hands, I packed a bag for Zachary and me, just the essentials. Clothes, diapers, some of Zachary's favorite toys. The family photos on the walls, once precious memories, now felt like painful lies. "We're going to see Grandma and Grandpa," I told Zachary as I strapped him into a stroller. He giggled, blissfully unaware of the chaos. Opting for the metro to avoid rush-hour traffic, I headed to my parents' house. As we approached the station, my mind raced with plans for our future. That's when disaster struck. Crossing the street, I heard the screech of tires. In a heartbeat, I pushed Zachary's stroller to safety, only to be hit by the car myself. Pain overwhelmed me, and then darkness enveloped me. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in a hospital room surrounded by the steady beeping of machines. There, looking worn and anxious, was Terry. "Zachary?" I managed to croak, my throat parched with fear. "He's fine, Pamela," Terry reassured me, squeezing my hand. "He's with Bella, your best friend. Not a scratch on him." Relief washed over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by pain. Glancing down, I saw both my legs encased in casts. Terry explained softly, "You have multiple fractures in both legs. The doctors say it'll take about a year for you to fully recover. You'll need to use a wheelchair for a while." Closing my eyes, I tried to absorb this devastating news, grappling with the reality of a long, challenging recovery ahead. In the disorienting haze of the hospital, a sudden clarity struck me, and I remembered the profound reason behind my presence at that metro station. "I know about her," I blurted out, my eyes wide open, scrutinizing Terry's reaction. "Your mistress." "I know everything." Terry's face lost color for an instant. He seemed on the verge of denial, but then his shoulders drooped. "Pamela, it wasn't serious. It was a stupid mistake," he stammered. His next words came in a rush. "When I got the call about your accident, I realized how close I came to losing you. I can't lose you. Please, can we start over? Give me another chance. I'll do better, I promise." Looking at him, this man I had shared so much with, he appeared genuinely remorseful, and I felt an overwhelming exhaustion from all the recent chaos. "Okay," I found myself saying, "we can try." The day I was discharged from the hospital felt like a dream. Terry arrived with a bouquet of pink peonies, my favorite, his smile carrying a mix of genuine concern and love. As he wheeled me out, hope flickered within me. Maybe, just maybe, we could salvage our relationship. The initial weeks back home were surprisingly pleasant. Terry was attentive and caring, helping me with daily activities and treating me with a tenderness that reminded me of our happier days. One evening, while we relaxed on the couch, he proposed an idea with a hopeful gleam in his eyes. "Nina, I've been thinking," he began, holding my hand gently. "We should get away for a weekend, just the two of us, to celebrate your recovery and, well, us." "Really? Where?" I asked, my heart fluttering with a mix of anticipation and nerves. "I found a cozy little house in the mountains, overlooking a beautiful canyon. What do you say?" His suggestions sounded idyllic. "That sounds wonderful, but what about Zachary? And I'm in a wheelchair. I'm sure Bella wouldn't mind watching him for a couple of days." "About the wheelchair, if anything, I'll carry you in my arms." "Come on, it'll be good for us." I agreed, swayed by his enthusiasm and the prospect of reconnecting. The drive to the mountain retreat was serene, winding through scenic vistas that eased the tension from the past months. The cabin was as charming as promised, secluded, with stunning views of the canyon. After settling in, Terry suggested exploring the area. "Why don't you rest? I'll check out the surroundings," he said, leaving me to unwind. Alone, I decided to check my emails, which I hadn't done since before the accident. Unable to find my phone, I wheeled over to Terry's laptop. As I opened the browser, an email notification caught my eye. It was from an unfamiliar address, but the subject line chilled me to the bone: urgent. "New information about your case." With trembling hands, I opened the message. It was from Emma, the private investigator I had hired weeks ago. My heart raced as I read her urgent words. "Mrs. Roy, I've been trying to reach you. Your number is out of service. I've uncovered disturbing new information. You're in danger. Your husband was involved in your accident. He's trying to get rid of you for the insurance money." The world seemed to stop spinning as the gravity of her words sank in. The serene escape Terry had planned suddenly felt sinister, and every moment with him flashed through my mind under this new, horrifying light. As I sat at the laptop, my world unraveled. The message from Emma, the private investigator, was damning. It contained evidence of Terry's betrayal, photos, videos, and texts that painted a grim picture. There were images of Terry with his mistress, bank statements with large withdrawals, and a grainy video that caught a woman, strikingly similar to Terry's assistant, behind the wheel of a car just before the accident. Overwhelmed, I quickly shut the laptop as Terry walked in. I tried to appear calm, though my heart pounded against my ribs. "Everything okay, Nina?" he asked, his tone casual, but his eyes scrutinizing. "Yeah, I can't find my phone. Have you seen it?" I managed, my voice quivering slightly. "Oh, that?" "It broke down suddenly. Must have been damaged in the accident," he replied, a cold smile flickering across his face. A shiver of fear ran through me. I needed to reach out for help. But how? "Terry," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady. "Could I borrow your phone? I want to check on Zachary and see how he's doing with Bella." He paused, eyeing me for a moment before handing over his phone. "Sure, go ahead. I'll just be right here." With trembling hands, I took the phone. Terry stayed close, watching. I knew I couldn't call the police or even Bella directly. Then, I remembered a conversation with my father years ago about a coded message involving Buddy the Bear, a signal for when I couldn't speak freely. Dialing my father's number, I hoped it hadn't changed. When he answered, I spoke with exaggerated cheerfulness. "Hey, Bella, how's everything going? How's Buddy the Bear doing?" There was a brief pause. Then my father's voice, disguised in a higher pitch, responded, "Oh, same old, same old. How are you?" Relief washed over me. He understood. "Oh, it's lovely up here," I gushed, aware of Terry's eyes on me. "We're at this beautiful cabin, 147 Pine Ridge Road. The view of Evergreen Canyon is just stunning." "I see," my father replied cautiously. "When do you think you'll be back?" "Oh, I dream of seeing you right now, this very second," I said emphatically. "I miss you guys already." After a few more pleasantries, I ended the call. Terry seemed satisfied, suspecting nothing. As evening approached, Terry suggested a walk. "The sunset over the canyon is beautiful. We shouldn't miss it,"
he said.
Fear clutched at my heart, but I had no choice. That sounds nice, I managed to say weakly. Terry wheeled me out onto a narrow path that skirted the canyon's edge. The view was indeed breathtaking. The setting sun painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple, and the canyon stretched endlessly before us. But all I could think about was the sheer drop just feet away. As Terry pushed my wheelchair, he chatted about the scenery as if everything was normal. I closed my eyes and prayed silently, desperately hoping my father would find me in time. The path curved one last time, and suddenly we were at the edge of the cliff. Terry turned my chair around to face him. The loving facade he'd maintained until now crumbled, revealing a cold, detached expression. "You know, Pamela," he said, his voice chilling, "I'm really sorry it had to come to this. The car accident was supposed to take care of everything, but you just had to survive, didn't you?" My blood ran cold as the full reality of my situation hit me. "Terry, please," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "Don't do this." He laughed mirthlessly. "Do you have any idea how perfect this is? A tragic accident at a scenic overlook. Your wheelchair rolls off the edge when the brakes fail. I'll be the grieving widower, inherit your apartment, and cash in that $3 million insurance policy. It's foolproof." As he spoke, he inched my wheelchair closer to the edge. I closed my eyes, silently praying for a miracle. Suddenly, the air filled with the sound of shouts and the rapid pounding of footsteps. My eyes snapped open just in time to see my father sprinting down the path, several police officers hot on his heels. "Pamela," my father cried out, his voice laced with urgency. Just as Terry was about to push my wheelchair over the edge, my father reached us, grabbing the handles and pulling me back from the precipice. The ensuing moments were a chaotic blur. The police swiftly tackled Terry to the ground, reading him his rights as they handcuffed him. Trembling uncontrollably, I watched, barely processing the close call, as the grim reality of what had nearly happened washed over me. My father knelt beside me, his arms pulling me into a tight embrace. Overwhelmed, I broke down, tears streaming as I sobbed into his shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Dad," I choked out between sobs. "You were right about him. I should have listened to you." He stroked my hair gently, his voice thick with emotion. "No, sweetheart. I'm the one who should be sorry. We let our pride keep us apart. Can you forgive us for not being there for you and Zachary?" My response was a silent nod, my tears speaking volumes as we held each other, letting years of hurt and misunderstanding dissolve in that long, poignant moment. In the weeks that followed, my life took a sharp turn. I filed for divorce, and with the overwhelming evidence arrayed against him, Terry was sentenced to prison for attempted murder, alongside his mistress who had driven the car in the original accident. The apartment, now a repository of painful memories, was sold. In its place, I bought a new home close to an excellent school for Zachary and just a few blocks from my parent house. During my rehabilitation, I moved back in with my parents. It was a year of profound healing, both physically and emotionally. My parents doted on Zachary, seizing the opportunity to make up for lost time with their grandson. Gradually, amidst the love and care of my family, I began to trust again, to smile again, to hope again. As I rebuilt my life from the ashes of my past, I found strength in the renewed bonds with my family and the promise of new beginnings.